stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much it.
Okay. And by the way, guys, I'm teaching lifespan and statistics next semester. Lifespan is age 0 to death for psychology. Psychology statistics is basically, it's pretty much math. There's something really cool that happens in week 5 regarding probability and cards.
Psychology statistics.
If you didn't test into it, I'm allowed to waive the requirement. I've been doing it for years.
That's gonna be normal math statistics.
It's not. So like here's the statistics is like it's math and there are formulas, but in some ways it's not math, at least in the beginning, but it counts as a math course.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Nice.
Thank you.
You know what like day or time of day it is? They have that yet?
What is that?
Do you know what time of day statistics is?
I do. I have to look it up, but I do have that information. Actually, we can start with that, guys, and then we'll.
Does registration start 14?
I think it starts soon. I had to accept the classes between the 15th of October and the end of the end, but I can pull up my class schedule and show you guys, and you guys take a picture or something. So what's nice about having all those recordings in stats, because I have all those recorded from the past, you can go forward or backwards in time. Like you can review stuff that I covered as I'm going through it, or if you wanted to work ahead, you could. Attendance is not required for statistics, but I would strongly encourage you guys to show up because it's statistics. So I can zoom in. So can you ever see that okay, or should I zoom in a little bit more? I was a little bit more. Okay, I think I might have gone. Is that good or more? Okay, so this is statistics. So it's 6 to 8:30. Looks like it's Thursday. So once a week. And it looks like it's a 12-week class, 226. So it starts a little bit later. And then developmental lifespan, 7 to 9:50 on Wednesday nights. So, and I'm assuming you guys won't need psych because I'm assuming everyone's going to do awesome and pass the course. So it'd be those two. If you like my instruction, if you need a course, like I said, now admissions, I used to work in admissions. They are not going to probably support your idea about a permit request. Just send it in anyways. I get an email. I don't think I have denied a permit request yet. What? So there's a thing under registration that says like request instructor approval or something, and then it goes right to my email. Then I go in on this side, and then I just click approve, and then you get an email, and then it allows you to register, but it won't let you register initially. Admissions might not give you that depth of information about statistics. It might be like, oh, take whatever Alex told you, etc. But I can tell you, I've been waiving it for a long time. I've gotten a lot of students out of the lower division math that way. So I think that admissions could do a better job here. I've said this to my dean. Like I hear stuff about advising students, and I came from that world like when I first started in higher education, and I hear stuff that I'm like, guys, you're supposed to look out for the best interest of students. I don't know if that always happens with the team here. Maybe a little more senior people, but I hear stuff like the biggest one was like literally telling a student, oh, don't take stats. That's a bad idea. I'm like, oh, great. That's like a nursing major who probably needs that. Why would you even tell them that, guys? Like sometimes it's important to bend and break the rules. You don't have to always be so by the book. So. And that's also at Westmont, which is like Downers Grove, basically. So it's the other location. So. But when we get into the hard, difficult stuff, I have my own worksheets that are like broken down where it's like here's all the formulas. And by the way, the test book open note, and I have a list of formulas. Where it's like literally, here's the problem, here's all the steps. We walk through it as a class, and here's a problem, try on your own. Then we walk through it as a class. So I really try to make it like very digestible and manageable so that if you take it, you don't end up failing. Share. Gallery here. Ash. Here. Lucia. Debbie. It's unusual. Sarah, you're here. Roberto. Maggie. Juan. Pratik. Nicholas. Keek. Tiffany. Clay. I think that's fine. I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, you guys can totally only more. Either email me or I'll catch you on break on the attendance. Okay, so. Please tell me this is it. Yes, okay. So we talked about memory, we talked about autobiographical memory, and we just started to scratch the surface, I feel like, last time. So we talked about this, right? This looks familiar, memory. Everyone has a good memory. Oh, by the way, everyone's sitting down, does everyone have any things they want to share with the memory exercise that they found insightful?
Can't really memorize things plainly on their own. You have to assign it to something to make it more effective, like, like a phone number with a tune or something.
Oh yeah, with the tune, yeah. Anyone ever miss like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I found it interesting. Assign a memory with something that already exists.
Yeah.
in life.
So the more unusual it is, the easier it is to remember. Anyone ever miss like an appointment that you set on the 30 or the half an hour or the hour like 00 or 30? It's because that information is very routine, and routine kind of lulls you to sleep. If you make appointments in the 15 and the 45, it sticks out in your head way better because it's unusual. Anytime you make it unusual, you usually remember it. So anybody else have any insights? One or two? What do you have? Yeah.
Yeah, like memory sometime, because I live in Africa, because before coming here,
Mhm.
I feel sometime like I'm back home and I have that sensation, like that feelings that I'm surrounding my friend and yeah, it happens to me every time.
Well, anytime it's like anything that's like familiar. Like I went to a conference this weekend and I was there this morning and I walked into one of the rooms and it looked like one of the rooms where we had like company Christmas party when I used to work in admissions, and like the chairs were arranged the same and I can almost like in my mind's eye see the event from a few years back. So but that's like that encoding or like the storage, like I was mentioning, what ends up happening with memory is there's basically it's like molecular welding, the base metals in your brain, something physically changes in the brain to give you the memory. So, but if there's anything that reminds you of home, and it starts with like sensory, like smells, sight, and then like the depth of processing. I'm like, man, these chairs look almost identical. I sat in the back like years ago in a room just like this one. So. So the processes we have encoding. Encoding, those are like the clues, the cues, the things that make it easy to rebuild the memory. There's also malleability of memory where you can remember it wrong. I told a very embarrassing story of my false memory and thinking that I had perfect vision last week. Not true. Storage, can you hang on to the memory and then can you retrieve it? You really have to have all of these things or the memory doesn't exist. And it's also susceptible to things like interference. Like you were mentioning, like taking care of your kids, or you're like doing something that's a task, and then you get something else that happens, you might kind of space out and forget what you're doing because that also supports the idea of like multitasking.
Fridge to grab something, and I'm like, what can I remember? What else to grab again?
It's not Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
It's part-timers. No, it's because of the interference. They asked you something, it's like that happens to all of us. They've done all these tests on multitasking, mostly concurrent. There's concurrent and serial. Serial multitasking is one thing after another, not really true multitasking. You can't split mental capacity infinitely. None of us can. It doesn't matter how sharp you are, you can't do it. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna put this thing in the fridge. And then your kid randomly says something and it like completely like erases what you're gonna get from the fridge. Yeah. Or you go into a room and you thought about something else walking into the room and now you forgot why you're in the room. Yeah, it's just, yeah. No, it's pretty normal. What do you got?
You have an example of what some types of mental operations for encoding would be?
I think that's coming.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna walk through that, I think, in terms of like the depth of processing. But like, well, I think as I explain the types of memory, I think that will kind of answer itself. But if it doesn't, I want you to ask that question again because I want to make sure I'm explaining it well. So we have the information processing model. It seems a processing of information is similar to a way a computer processes memory in a series of 3 stages. Also, the parallel distributed processing (PDP) model. Memory processes are proposed to take place at the same time over a large network of neural connections, which makes sense. Oh, and does anyone, by the way, want that? Anyone want to comment on that memory video from last week? I know we talked about that briefly. Does anyone have feelings one way or the other if they want that type of memory? Would you want to remember that much or not so much? Anybody maybe we haven't heard from yet? No? Like you like the forgetting a little bit? Not remembering every single moment? You really don't. You kind of want to block that out. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the memory is there, but when it's happening, when you're like burying them, it's a different
Yeah.
mental
Yeah.
process.
I'm very much hoping that my dad is alive today. I've texted him and I've called him and I've not been able to reach him. It's been several hours. He refuses to take high blood pressure medication, which he's supposed to be taking. And it's been a while that he hasn't been on it, which means the capillary, it does stuff to your heart. Some side effects are dementia, which I think might be happening. He keeps telling me the same stories. I hope he lives into like 90 or 100, but generally he's like, I can't talk. I can see where the car is because he wanted me to be able to find the car. Everything happened, but it's been like 4 or 5 hours. Usually at least like text, I have voicemail. I'm hoping that he's alive. So I hope he's taking a nap. I hope it's that simple. I really do.
It's still well. Just be positive, it's still well.
Yeah. And that's when you know you're an adult, by the way, when you actually like naps. That's when you've graduated to being a true adult.
I never like staying down because I don't know.
Like close your eyes. How's that?
I wish I had infinite energy all the time.
What, just to get like more stuff done? I hear that.
Literally just that. Like, even if the things that I'm doing aren't really things that I enjoy, I'd rather be awake and do them than to like sleep on.
Like falling asleep is sometimes just like laying down. Relaxing,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, that's why I like meditating, I guess.
I don't know. I stayed at the Marriott last night because like there was a conference and I'm pretty sure the union will reimburse me. So the bed was super, super soft because it was the Marriott. It was really nice. I really enjoyed sleeping. I really want to get out of bed this morning. What was that?
That's better.
It's like there is a difference between like Motel 6 and like higher end hotels. Like the sheets are nicer, the bed's softer. Like it's why it's expensive or really, really cheap. It does make a difference. So I think this starts to answer a little bit of your question from before. The levels of processing, like, does it have meaning? And like it starts with sensory, psychological, physiological significance, emotional significance. If the thing's emotion, like you were mentioning, and thank you for being brave, you're like when you bury someone, like it's very emotional. And because we don't like the finality of death, none of us do, like in this culture. Generally, Americans don't say the word death. They say passed away, moved on, not with us anymore. Other cultures will actually say the word, like in their native language. What was that?
We died.
Yeah. But we tend to lean into that. Yeah, I wish we had infinite. I'm with you on the infinite energy. I wish we had infinite life. That'd be great too. Imagine all the stuff you would see. What if we didn't age? That would be fun, right? If you just like could be like 20, 30, looking your whole life.
I think there's a-
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah.
Immortality is probably like the worst mental torment.
I could see that. I could see that. Like you probably see too much.
Really truly didn't age, we don't be babies, right?
Right. Right.
So
That's
like,
fair.
where's
That's
the
fair.
mindset?
I think it should be like I think it should be like 20s or 30s tops. I think that would be great. If that was actually a thing, it's not.
Yeah.
But right. 35 is like tops. What do you got?
I was just wondering, that's a good definition, but I was wondering like, what's some sort of examples of it?
Okay, so I was talking about like depth of the encoding, where were you here last week? Did I tell that story? I'm not sure if you were here. I'm not blowing you up. I'm just asking for
I was
example.
on Zoom.
Okay, that's right. So like the green garbage can that my dad threw the ice cream cone into, the trauma and the emotional response of me bawling my eyes out when my ice cream cone got taken away. Like these are the things that are sort of like those mental steps, those mental processes, like the end of the cul-de-sac, lived in Brambles Court, like a lot of the details that are processed at many different levels. This is the first stage of memory. If it's just sensory, it usually is gone almost immediately. Sensory memory does not really stick unless there's other things going on with it. Like the smell of like apple pie, sure, we probably all know what that smells like. But when grandma cooked it and was kind and sweet to you because she's grandma and you smelled it, now the memory is a little bit more encoded. It's a little bit more of the process. This is the first stage of memory. Um, a few seconds, several seconds. This is actually shorter than short-term memory. Short-term memory is about 30 seconds. There's also some interesting studies on, and I'm just sharing this with you in terms of memory, like you guys do your modus operandi. Those studies on taking notes on a computer, and studies on taking notes by hand. and the retention's usually way higher when you take it by hand. Whatever your modus operandi is, if you're like, I like using the computer, keep using the computer. But a lot of the research has said what ends up happening is you hear the information and it goes directly into your fingertips and it doesn't really stick in the brain. Now, if you review, that's probably different. But they found when you actually do that process of writing, usually the retention of the memory is higher, which does kind of support this model. So this is a little bit more of the breakdown to try to answer that question a little bit better. Sensory memory, we lose information in about a second or so. Selective attention is like, are you paying attention to the thing? Because if you're not paying attention, and we've probably all done this, we've been distracted by our phone, and maybe someone important to us says something and you don't even hear what they said. Or you try to repeat it back and you get like half of it. You have to use selective attention to move it into your short-term memory, and then you still lose it in about 15 seconds. And then if you consolidate, you get it into long-term memory. Generally, that's pretty much forever. Like no one's walking out if you're suddenly forgetting English on the way out of the classroom because it's in your long-term memory. It's encoded. Now, if you rehearse information for about 10 to 12 times, you can usually move it into short-term memory to long-term memory. That helps when you're in a testing environment because now it's in long-term memory. You can just simply retrieve it. Also, I feel like we retain stuff better when it's interesting or it's unusual, like I mentioned before. A friend that I made at a training, and she sent me a 57-page document about the other school. She's like, you might want to read this. So I did. A couple weeks later, I had an informal interview with the guy, and there was this whole thing where they explained different types of faculty. And he said he thought that I was the other faculty. I was like, oh no, I'm not. And here's all the reasons why. Because it was unusual and interesting. That had to do with like, do you write articles? Do you support student success? There's a bunch of stuff to how they would code them. Because he's like, I can't staff the class. And it was still kind of unclear all the stuff I read of those 57 pages, but like the different types, because I was unusual and interesting. I remembered enough to actually like speak knowledgeably during the interview from just like how memory works. The thing I can't explain is I seem to remember interviews almost verbatim. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm paying it so close attention to like get the answers right and give them genuine answers, but I usually like verbally encode those where like especially if I'm excited about it, which makes sense with our video last week. You have iconic memory, visual sensory memory lasting only a fraction of a second. So that's everything that can be seen for the capacity at one given time. Duration, it's pushed up very quickly through a process called masking. And eidetic imagery, the rare ability to access a visual memory for 30 seconds or more.
Is all this still in sensory memory?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Someone eidetic imagery, maybe they can recite several decimals of pi, 3.14, and like keep going because they have eidetic memory, for example. We're about 2 weeks off from playbooks. Everyone to present. So
Do we
Yeah.
have forward from the PowerPoint or do we just have to present?
just present. So it's 5 of your best weeks, 3 podcasts, including Psychology Sisters in my list that we didn't cover in class. So like, don't do the one on psilocybin because, and the reason I had to change it is everybody was doing that one. And I'm like, we saw this in class, guys. You're not giving back. So I still listed, but the idea is follow the directions and then a summary of how you can use stuff. And the journaling, you get the whole semester to do that. But if you've been keeping up, you probably would have 5 weeks by now. And there can be some overlap between the two. The project itself is worth 1,000 points, 500 for the presentation, 500 for the playbook. But if you're just answering the questions in order, out of order, or pick the stuff that's the most interesting, If you're like, I want to geek out on personality and intelligence, which we have not talked about yet, that's fine.
Which,
It's in the playbook directions. And if there's something that you feel is psych related that's media and you sidebar with me, I can approve it. I just don't want you unilaterally deciding that you're going to grab something that's not on the list. And like I mentioned, anything from Psychology Sisters is fine. If you're like, hey, this is psych related, I'm looking for a really strong reason as to why, and or knowing that that's a content expert, not just some random person on X that's expressing an opinion. Because that happens. Not that you guys would do that, but I just want to make sure like the quality of what you're presenting is good. Do you have a question, Tiffany, or were you just thinking? Okay. Yeah, that could work. Yeah. One student, I think I mentioned this, did a song. He recited the lyrics of a song. No, I think he played it for us. And it was a song about mental health and suicide, which is a mental health thing. So this is an example of iconic memory where basically they did a tone associated with each row, and participants were able to recall the letters in the row for which they heard the tone. The graph shows a decrease in the number of letters recalled as the delay in presenting the tone increased. That was the thing that you mentioned earlier, Sarah. You're like, when you put it alongside of something, it's easier to remember. So he supports that. Echoic memory, the capacity is about 2 to 4 seconds. That's the idea of like you're processing and hearing the information just enough to like digest it and run with it. You're gonna use this a lot when you communicate with anyone. So, short-term memory, the memory system, which information is held for brief periods of time, will be used. Selective attention is the idea that you have the ability to focus on only one stimulus from among all sensory input. Again, supporting that idea of not multitasking. Because when you go back and you look and you're like, holy shit, that was really bad. I missed a huge detail in that thing I was multitasking with. We've probably all done it where we're like, yeah, that was not good. Were you here with the magic 7 plus or minus 2? Was that last week or not? The 7 plus or minus 2 principle is the idea that your short-term memory has capacity for 5 to 9 pieces of information. It's probably something you brought with you today that supports that. Like something electronic. Does anyone know what I'm referring to? Phone. And ultimately phone numbers. If you ever notice, it's 3, 3, 4. But it's 10 digits, which would exceed this. If I write a random number on the board, and I say, memorize that, and then I erase it quickly. Kind of hard to do. If I write a number on the board like this, and don't call these guys, they're just random numbers, okay? It's a lot easier to remember, and also the repetition too, like the 2 5s. That's the idea of the 7 plus or minus 2. You ever notice addresses? You never go more than 5 to 9 numbers in a row for there's a letter to break it up. We know this about our memory. This is also a trick in terms of chunking and short-term memory. Cramming doesn't really work. Cramming, you lose about 80 to 90% of it 2 to 3 weeks later. So if you cram to get through the test, that gets you through the test, but the real world application skills that you probably all need may not be there. So be careful of that. It is a trick though, because of the capacity. So if you sort the things into 5 to 9 sections, that would be a way you could remember the thing, at least temporarily. And for the people that walked in late, I teach stats next term and lifespan development. If you need either one of those courses or are trying to get out of the math. If you didn't place into it with the Alex test, I can waive that. If you need it, want to get out of math and or like my teaching style or maybe a psych major. I think lifespan might be a thing for nursing now. I know we have a few nursing majors in here, so. Short-term memory lasts for about 12 to 30 seconds without rehearsal. It's susceptible to interference. For example, if counting's interrupted, one has to start over. That's why sometimes if like you don't write it down, it didn't happen. We talk about chunking, bits of information that are combined in meaningful units or chunks so that you can hold more information in short-term memory. So like toss and turn, when we think about like sleep, that's chunking, like related items. Maintenance rehearsal, same bits of information to be remembered over and over in one's head in order to maintain in the short-term memory is typically encoded, like remembered with the clues in auditory form, like that narrative voice in your head. You got,
What does it mean? Is intends to be encoded into auditory form.
so encoding are like the clues to how you remember it. So this means that like when you're trying to remember, you're probably going to hear it verbally and like in your head. It tends to be encoded in in auditory or verbal form.
So like saying it. is a way to help.
Yeah, but even if you read it a whole bunch, like you'll like hear it in your head. Internal monologue, yeah. Yeah.
More than your.
Tend to be encoded. It could be a visual for you. It's not always auditory form. But that's then you maybe just remember it differently. Usually it's like that. But that's great. Like that's great that you guys are thinking about it in that much detail. That's wonderful. Long-term memory. Does everyone have this before I go into the next slide? Okay. Long-term memory, that's generally permanent in terms of the duration. Elaborative rehearsal, a method of transferring information from short-term memory to long-term memory, making the information meaningful in some way. Tell yourself a story, use a mnemonic device. Anyone familiar with a mnemonic device?
That math going, like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Yeah. This is made your Aunt Sally foil. The kids put Crazy Little Fred in the garage and shut it. Kingdom, Phylum, Class, Order, Family.
Or never eats lucky waffles for Northeast, South and West.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Or news. News comes from the North, East, West, and South. Non-declarative implicit memory, like implied memory. Type of long-term memory, including memory for skills, procedures, habits, and conditioned responses. They're not conscious, but their existence is implied because they affect conscious behavior. Things like emotional associations, habits, simple conditioned reflexes would all be non-declarative, implicit, or implied memory. You remember it like it's there, but it's not, but it is. So implicit memory that's not easily brought into conscious awareness. We have anterograde amnesia, loss of memory from the point of injury or trauma forward, or the inability to form new long-term memories. It usually does not affect procedural long-term memory. So like anyone ever see 50 First Dates? Anterograde amnesia. Or no one's seen that because I got like a look. Retrograde, of course, would be the opposite of this, which would be the loss of memory from the point of injury or trauma backwards. Don't forget to take the midterm that's coming up soon. So the 26th to the 30th in Connect. There is no time limit. It is open book, open note. I would probably lean into your notes or your reading, not the internet, because the internet might get it wrong. It's the Tower of Hanoi. Basically, participants learn how to do this. The goal is to move all the discs from peg A to peg C. The rules are that a larger disc cannot be moved on top of a smaller one and cannot be moved if there are other discs on top of it. Amnesia patients learned the procedure, but they could not remember that they actually had learned the procedure. Declarative, explicit memory, type of long-term memory containing information that is conscious and known, memory for facts. A lot of this is probably what you're learning in school. Types of declarative memory: semantic, declarative memory containing general knowledge, things like language, information learned in formal education, episodic, like episode memory of the things you encounter day to day, daily activities, events, things like that. Semantic and episodic memories are forms of explicit memory, memory that is consciously known. So this is a breakdown of types of long-term memories. So it's just basically a lot of what we covered. It's just a diagram of that. Long-term memory is organized in terms of related meanings and concepts. We have something called a semantic network model. It assumes that information is stored in the brain in a connected fashion. So concepts that are stored physically closer to each other than unrelated concepts. Bless you. So this would be an example of a semantic map. Now, we could create our own, or you could think about something that you've learned and then what it might look like. We could do that as a class or in small groups, or you can just take the information and if it makes sense. See, the idea of a semantic map makes sense. So like we have like the animal, and then like the concept of like other animals and the stuff it can do. So like the stuff the thing can do is closer than like the other concepts of other animals physically in the brain. That's like the semantic map. Doesn't it make sense? Makes sense. Okay. Moving. Retrieval cue, stimulus for remembering. Priming can occur where experience with information or concepts can improve later performance. Any thoughts on what some examples of priming or a retrieval cue might look like or be? Like an example of either one of those? Was something you've had to remember or are able to remember?
As like smelling something and then thinking of a very specific memory.
Yeah. Yeah, because sensory is part of the encoding and the depth of processing. Like if you like that smell of fresh rain, for example. Or maybe you had a really good memory where you had a great day and that's how it started, and then that gives you the memory of that day. Encoding specificity, tendency for information to be improved in related state, surroundings, or physiological state. Available memory was first formed. Also, available memory is retrieved. A lot of times the textbook will talk about like underwater diver taking a test underwater and studying underwater and then taking that being better than um their scores being higher than taking the test above water when they were studying underwater to its physiological state. Like, don't come to this class drunk or high, but if you're studying drunk or high and then you take the test drunk or high, you'll probably score higher than if you were sober or vice versa. Like, you study sober, you take the test sober. Like, there's been some data on this. I'm trying to think of a fun way to remember it so that it sticks for you guys. So there's something with state dependent learning. I think that has to do with like environment. Now, there's some newer research that actually contradicts this a little bit, which we do in science sometimes, that says sometimes the disruption is better. Some there was a they had kids practice from shooting free throws from like 3 and 7 feet and 4 and 6 feet, and then they tested them a couple weeks later on at 3 and 7 feet. Who do you think scored higher? Was it the people that practiced at the same thing they were tested on, or the ones that practiced differently? No, it was actually the ones that practiced from the different ones. They scored more baskets. They also took a group of students and they had group A in a room. And they said, okay, here's some information. Remember this for a test later today. Go out to eat with each other, etc. So another group of students, same scenario. And then when they tested them, they put one student in the same room to test. They put another group of students in a different room. And the room with that was different, they scored higher. Now, anecdotally, a friend of mine a few years back was getting his master's. No, I think it was his bachelor's. And he was taking an online exam for like 4 hours. And during the exam, he got into an argument with his wife, and his kids were annoying the hell out of him, and he brought like an A on the exam. So there is some contradictory research that sometimes the disruption actually helps the learning, but more often than not, the state dependent makes it easier to recall if we're in a similar state. Recall, memory retrieval in which information can be pulled from memory with very few external cues. Retrieval failure, recall is failed or at least temporarily. We have the tip of the tongue phenomenon. I don't ever experience that. And then you wake up at like 2 in the morning and you're like, it's this, whatever the thing is. tip of the tongue phenomenon. You know it, but you don't know it. It's like right there. Thought about the serial position effect. The information at the beginning and the end's really clear. The stuff in the middle is kind of murky. If you drove a ways today to get here, you probably remember leaving your house or your job, and you probably remember getting here at COD. But that middle thing we thought that was also in the video, like it's more of an abstraction. Now, if you only drove 5 minutes, maybe remember the entire thing. But if you traveled a long way, you have an idea what that looked like, but you do not remember the entire thing, typically. And maybe you've ever noticed if you studied for a test, vocabulary words are a concept. The beginning of the chapter, the end of the chapter, it sticks, but that middle stuff, kind of murky. So the primacy effect is the beginning, the recency effect would be the end. Serial position effect is the overall idea of the two sub-ideas. Bless you. This is a graph of that. Just backing that up. We have recognition, the ability to match a piece of information or a stimulus to a stored image or a fact. A false positive error which is an error recognition in which people think they recognize a stimulus that is not actually in memory. You guys can look that one up if you want, the case of Father Bernard Pagano. Maybe someone can tell us what happened with this false memory, or false positive rather. Or I can tell you. So here's Father Bernard Pagano. They thought that he was like robbing all these. Did you look it up, Tiffany? Do you want to tell us more or?
It just, I was just reading the beginning of it. It said that they falsely accused him of robbing 9 banks. They said that, his partner at the time gave a photo of him to the police and she assumed that it was him. So they went with it and it was not him. The person who ended up doing it walked in and was like, I did it.
Yeah. Elizabeth Loftus and Eyewitnesses, she found that when she asked people to talk about the velocity of cars getting into an accident by changing it to hit, crash, smashed, etc., that they judged the velocity higher based on the severity of the verb that was used in her research. So that demonstrates that eyewitness testimony is not always reliable. She also did some APA approved research of implanting false memory in kids where they were told the story over and over again. And then they started to like actually have a memory of the thing that never happened at all. So, and please have to be careful, like not to ask like leading questions. It's like, it's we're at a gas station and like they have colors of how tall everybody is that walks in, 4, 5, 6 feet. So if you do get robbed, you can look at things they leave and get that right. And they train you, they tell you just give them the money. Don't try to be a hero. Just cooperate. So an interesting job. I got canned lake tuna. They said that I was stealing. I was like, really? You got some videotape of that? Because I sure I wasn't stealing. I was studying on the job and they didn't want us to do that. So I wrote letters to the labor board for like 8 months. I got my final paycheck from the owner. It took 8 months to get it though. Several years later, he got in trouble for getting really drunk and embezzling from himself and going to the safe at night. And he was blaming college students. The cops off the record were like, we could do a class action, but they were like grilling me and like I was like, I don't steal, and I would encourage you to check all the videotapes that I would have been on because I don't steal. And they had nothing. It was great when the labor board got involved because the labor board hired an attorney on my behalf to force him to give me my final paycheck. You have things like automatic encoding, tendency of certain kinds of information to enter long-term memory with little or no effortful encoding. Flashbulb memory is automatic encoding that occurs because an unexpected event has strong emotional associations for the person remembering it. Can anyone think of any examples of maybe when you or someone you know has experienced automatic encoding and or a flashbulb memory? It can be good or bad. It's an the most strong emotional association.
So would it be like my uncle that just passed away would send me like pictures of tulips that he's grown like every day. So now when I see tulips, like I get very emotional.
It's flashbulb memory, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And the repetition, I think, was automatic encoding. My uncle used to have a Corvette engine underneath the hood of his Trans Am. And when my grandma passed away, he lived like 3 miles away, and it was like a direct shot. They hung up the phone, like within 30 seconds, he was pulling in the driveway. So to your point, Tiffany, I always, when someone talks about fast cars or sports cars, I always think of my late uncle because he ended up passing away. Like, I think like in his late 30s, but he wasn't really healthy. Like he had diabetes numbers in like the 400s all the time. And like to do a lot of drugs, so didn't work. And not just like marijuana, like lots of like hard drugs. So he went into the hospital, and a week later he was on life support. And then they made phone calls to everybody to unplug him. And then someone made the choice to unplug because it was like 5 thought, and he was brain dead. I mean, he was vegetable at this point. So it was weird because I was scheduled to go to a wedding. I live in California. I had to come to Wisconsin for the wedding, and then I had to go to the funeral the same week. It was weird. I ended up staying. I think I ended up staying like a couple days longer. So I was driving with my mom when I was like 5. Clearly, she was the one doing the driving. This was hope so. And there's a picture of this beautiful. There was this beautiful deer in like this field, and she's like, "Take a little picture of that so we can paint it later." So there was a strong emotional association of like spending time with mom in the future. Sadly, we never painted the deer that I was supposed to take a picture of. I was like 5 or younger. Constructive processing. So this speaks to the malleability of memories. You rebuild the memory every time you think about it. So it can be altered, revised, or influenced by newer information. So your memory is a little bit suspect. Unless you have corroboration with somebody else that has the same memory, you could get it wrong just because of recall. Doesn't mean you get every memory wrong, but you can get memories that you're so sure are true wrong.
I was thinking of this yesterday because I was scrolling on Twitter and there's this trend of like people being like, hey, does anyone have that screenshot of this one meme? But they redraw it from memory.
Oh,
And it's like a little off. Some of them are extremely but they get
Yeah.
what they're talking about anyways. And it made me think of this.
yeah,
It's kind of funny.
that's absolutely constructive processing with the meme. That's a great example. everybody doing? Are we, should we take a break now, a little bit? How's the energy? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we're not quite halfway, but it just feel like people are like just look tired, maybe just need like a refresh or. Okay, we'll stay going now. 17 after like 2:27, 30 at the latest. Try to take about 10 minutes or so. Hi.
Was curious if I could leave your link because I have something to do.
You totally can. Just make sure I get your attendance either now or email me. I'm gonna post the recording, so you could watch that later. Yeah, just yeah, as long as just we're in the middle of an activity, or just like leave quietly. That's fine. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no problem. So,
I don't understand how I missed like 3 homework last time. 2 assignment. I thought I did all of them, but chapter 7 and 8, it's like three.
was it chat? Was it in Connect?
Yeah.
So the date should be preset. Just what you want to make sure you're doing, and that's for definitely for everybody, is you want to go into Connect and look at the dates. Because I think it's not always connecting correctly to Blackboard.
Exactly. It's what I was saying.
if you email me those, I'll do a one-time thing and I'll open them up for you, but moving forward, use Connect.
Please.
I'll help you. But if you miss them again, then you miss them. Because my biggest thing is like fairness for,
You are so right.
for everybody.
Almost, I just rely on grade. I saw there from grade. But
Okay.
I think from there that gonna work. So I have to be connected soon.
Okay, and I think we just did those. So yeah, just shoot me an email and yeah. If you were like all of them earlier, I would be like, probably not, but yeah, just be like a one time.
Thank you so much. I just found it this morning. So wow. How can I miss like?
So what I would do, I would go into Connect, I would look at all your dates,
Okay.
and I'd probably write them down.
Okay.
Also, they're fairly in line with the syllabus that I posted in terms of when they're due.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be speaking with the people at Connect about the configuration issue, so it quits doing that, because I know that it's not always telling you in Blackboard, but
Exactly.
we're gonna have to not trust Blackboard.
Thank you so much. I was
Yeah.
trusting just Blackboard.
Yeah, don't. Blackboard will lie to you.
But I checked very well. I was okay, but what happened?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just
Thank
just
you
just
so
shoot
much.
just shoot me an email and then I'll take care of it.
I will do it even today.
What?
Yeah, I will do those homework today and shoot you in the email.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that'll work. Hi, how's it going?
Great.
Welcome.
So we are not here today.
You had a what?
We are not here to attend class today because it's our biggest festival like Christmas. It's Diwali, if you know.
I don't know what that is, but I believe you.
Yeah.
It was like a religious.
I bring sweets
Oh,
for everybody. including the-
oh, wow. All right, cool.
Yeah. And
Thanks, man.
today is Dhanteras, so we just like do puja of done. It's meaning money or wealth.
Oh,
So we are going there to do puja in our temple and stuff.
So we were basically the varsity card for the event.
okay.
Yeah.
So we have sweets from your colleagues up here.
Yeah.
From a religious event, which I don't know if I fully understand what it was that you were celebrating, but I want to.
So this is
That seems a little unclear to me, but
festival of Diwali. So this is basically a Hindu festival from the India.
Okay.
And these 7 days we are worshiping the God in several forms.
And
So these are the 7 days. So this is like a New Year.
yeah,
New Year is like for our
Oh.
religions, according
Yeah.
to Hindu religions.
So
there's
Well, there's a Chinese New Year. This is like your religion.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. I just want to make sure I was tracking with you.
7th day is New Year for our religious.
Oh, okay.
And we celebrate a whole 7 days at the like in between there is a one also New Year celebration. Before that there is a Deepavali.
Yeah.
These are like basically most biggest festival
In
on
India.
a holy ships like on a holy like that.
That's super interesting. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
And if you guys wanna enjoy fireworks, then you can come on like BAPS Bartlett Temple. They do have it. I don't know what the time.
Yeah,
but they do have
tomorrow's
tomorrow.
like 6:30 to 7:30 or maybe around 8:30 or like massive fireworks like
Yeah.
which you were enjoying Navipier. It's like
Yeah, it's same like that.
yeah, it's more bigger than that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
and where is this?
It's Bartlett
BAPS
BAPS Temple.
like I something
You can search it like you can
290
search
or
it on
maybe
map.
like 90 height or something.
B&B?
BAPS.
Can I write it?
Or
Yeah,
I
sure.
can email you.
Absolutely. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Share it with us. Absolutely. Yeah, sounds good.
And the road, like the street name is also on that god name in here, Chicago. BAP. I think it's Pramukh Swami Street or something like that.
Oh, okay. BAPS. Okay, cool. Thank you for increasing our cultural awareness and
Yeah.
understanding. That's cool.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was trying to do the memory, and when I press on this one, it's.
You
it
do
didn't let me
the,
see the image.
well, was that number 3?
Yeah,
Do number 4 instead.
number 4, okay.
3 broke recently. I think I said that last week
Did you?
to just do the 4th one in lieu of.
Okay, cool. So I just want me to send it to you by the end of the day today?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
yeah.
It's, he's so bad. I don't have blonde hair. It's not good.
It's they are really.
I'm gonna take a picture once
Yeah.
that's all on there. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm honored, guys. Yeah, this is, I'm not sure exactly what, but you guys want to.
What do they do, like?
It's sweet, but it's not like cookies. It's made of cashew.
Okay.
It's good.
I don't think I've ever dyed my
If you
hair.
don't like cashews, then you.
Wait, so that was like.
Dyed my hair.
I used to have mine all the time. I did highlights. Feel bad.
You did?
Like, I used to have fun. Yeah.
Neon pink. Yeah. Great.
So I'm gonna take a picture of that.
This is the festival, this is the location.
Okay.
Okay.
You can also search it online.
I still am, just like not in that way anymore.
He's alive. He's alive, guys.
Well, I did some purple stripes. That was pretty much.
Finally texted me like 8 hours later.
I told you.
But usually dad doesn't do that. Usually he texts back right away.
And when you said you had purple shrink,
Yeah.
did that look good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, I look.
This is the time, like Sunday, 19th
You like it
October.
natural?
Yeah,
Take a picture.
I mean, now.
Okay, cool.
No, I-
Thank you.
Yeah, just here for swings and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend on my.
Like we will not attend a live class, but we'll watch video of the
Okay.
class.
I'll dye your hair like 2 months after.
Oh, wow. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alright, thank you.
6 months?
It's
This power.
Yeah.
This is the temple location.
They just told me don't dye your hair in like sessions or else it'll come back to your hair. And since it's not even.
I mean, I guess it
More
depends.
than-
Yeah.
Like, if it's a different, so like,
Temple is also.
it was undyed before, right? And such. They should be fine. Thank you. That's like being extra careful. If you were to look at it like that.
Yeah, everybody can come.
Yeah, more than-
And it's free.
Right, but.
You don't have any charges over there.
Pretty
And
healthy.
I think
Okay.
I think you're fine dying it.
on Diwali, I'm not sure, but I think
Cause you won't do that.
next
with that, so it's
Wednesday,
like
you
you
can,
won't dye it brown.
you can get free
That's really
food,
hard to
cause
fake.
it's just like
You're just scared.
prasad.
The friends.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's really good.
yeah,
Um,
and if
yeah.
you wanna try cashew,
So if I wanna go.
if you wanna try really good Indian food, then you can come on Diwali, but it's
Pretty
chargeable.
far.
You could-
Okay.
it's easy to dye.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
We'll see you next.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
It's easy to do.
Happy Diwali, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Be to Wally. It's pretty good.
Rest, like around your hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll keep that in mind.
No, but it's easy, don't worry. It's kind of hard to mess up.
You said you had highlights?
I had highlights when I was younger, yeah.
What was your motivation?
Vanity. Vanity.
Oh.
Probably vanity. Like, I don't know if there's really another motivation. I just thought I looked good with highlights.
Yeah.
Blonde with the red hair.
The colors that I did like emerald green and then I did pink, I did red. And then I did blue. Me too.
Yeah.
Red and can go at the same time?
No. All individually, they would fade and then I'd be like, you know what, that color looks kind of like green, let me just do green. I would just go with the color.
That's cool. I've never done like unusual colors. I just did like a natural one. I just kind of just stopped doing it one day. I don't know.
So I was like, green, green. It's
Oh my
like,
God, yeah.
ugly green, like,
It
small.
depends, yeah, sometimes it looks like red. Yeah.
How old were you when you had your highlights?
20.
Okay, so like pretty young.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I might do it again. I might do it now just to change it up.
Good.
I found out that I could unionize in my day job. They're squeezing us with more stuff. I'm gonna squeeze back, but I'm gonna get registered with the union first.
You could use the gray hair color. That's temporary.
That doesn't work with red hair.
It doesn't?
No, red hair is like the most like attitude problem with dyeing. Like I have to like bleach it and then dye it and then dye it. Like it doesn't real, it's like, it's real resistant to dye. So maybe I should go back to dyeing it. It was just highlights. That was fun though. Anyone ever had this happen? Any examples of this? Hindsight bias? I should have known better. That was so obvious. No, it's obvious now because you have all the facts. It wasn't obvious then at all, but you look back at your life sometimes. We all wish that we all wish that we were like, well, couldn't I go tell my younger self this thing? Don't you all wish this kind of supports the idea of hindsight bias? I should have seen that coming. No, we probably wouldn't have. None of us would have.
Like, she has her future self come to visit her past self.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't think I watched that. No, it wasn't on Netflix yet. I watched it on Fluojo. Yeah. It was,
They
or,
call each other.
yeah, they would call each other, but she was doing mushrooms to like, and then the future self had to like smoke a bunch of weed to like travel back in time, which is funny because it kind of makes sense with like the effects of marijuana. Oh my God, it's on the tip of tongue phenomenon. It's something like I was saying like my old ass or something. And she's like,
I've seen that, yeah.
I saw, yeah, the preview locked me in, and I was like, well, I got to walk for like an hour in my living room to like, be healthy. So I threw that thing on. It was about, I think it was just over an hour, just under. It wasn't a real long movie. Yeah.
I love it. I watched it with my daughters and they were like laughing the whole time. But I'm like, see guys, that's why you guys gotta make good decisions because you don't wanna go back in life like me and then regret a lot of shit.
You said she smoked, traveled back in time.
Smoke, their future self smoked weed to travel back in time, which is funny because sometimes if someone's high, time sort of slows down. The marijuana, giddy up. Uh, hypothetically speaking. Yeah. Yeah. And then her younger self met the older self by doing mushrooms in the movie from the psilocybin, which that kind of makes sense too. Yeah.
I'll do that.
I'm not encouraging that, but that sounds like a great plan. The misinformation effect, the tendency of misleading information presented after an event to alter the memories of the event itself. I do think there's definitely a stigma with marijuana though. Like people need to calm CTFD, like calm them down about it. Like alcohol is more dangerous. Caffeine might be more dangerous, but alcohol certainly is. Caffeine can cause heart palpitations and cardiac arrest if it consumed in 400 milligrams or higher in the course of a day, and heart attack. MD verified that. I don't think marijuana does that. It might make your heart beat fast, but I don't think it's gonna like. No one's ever died of marijuana. People have died of doing stupid shit on marijuana. That has happened, but no one's ever like. No one's ever like overdosed. Like they overdose on other things, but marijuana, like, yeah, people typically just pass out, eat a bunch of food. That's generally, yeah. Shrooms are like that doesn't, if they're impaired and they do something, then yeah, then that might be a problem. But generally, people don't die of either one of those by themselves.
It has to be like an action that the person does.
Yeah. Misinformation effect, tendency of misleading information presented after an event to alter the memories of the event itself. Any examples of when this has happened? Or ideas, or maybe when you've seen this?
Is that kind of like a game of telephone?
Maybe sort of. I remember I was watching, no, I think I was listening to the news on Spotify. It's ABC News. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, at least with the paid subscription, I'm pretty sure the free one too, though. What was that?
I don't know.
And they literally said one day that there was like this information, and then the next day it was misinformation because they broadcast the exact same information the following day, and they said it was brand new. I'm like, I literally heard this yesterday. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I know I heard this thing yesterday. So So the effect of it, like the noun, not just like misinformation being out there, but where it actually alters the memory.
Is that like the? I forgot the term for it, but it's like where a mass grouping of people all remember the same information that never existed.
Yeah,
The
The
Mandela,
Mandela effect, yeah.
is this like that?
Yeah, on a track.
But the Mandela effect is something more like something that.
Did we ever do this? Did we ever do the selective memory test? This class. Yeah. Where you count the basketball hoops? Players. Yeah.
Oh, wait, yeah.
We did that, didn't we? No, it was a video. Did that, okay. Yeah, if you say something else, you wreck the purpose of the video, but I think we did that, yeah, okay. Does everyone have this before we move on to the next slide? Okay. False memory syndrome, creation of inaccurate or false memories through the suggestions of others, often when the person under hypnosis. However, they have to be plausible or they don't really happen. The reason I thought I was cured from my vision, which was just having a contact in my eye, was because it was actually plausible. Because I believe in the product and I'm spiritual and I believe in miracles. So I can't medically explain why my friend who had cervical cancer that was fatal is still alive, but I can say there was a lot of prayer that happened around that. The doctors couldn't explain to you. They just said 10% of everybody goes away, but they weren't sure why it happened with her. She's like, God is fucking with me. I was like, your attitude sucks. And then it went away. So I get to navigate that first one, by the way, like weekly with my boss who doesn't remember anything. It's fun times. She remembers stuff inaccurately and then gets argumentative about the memory. I'm like, okay. Curve of forgetting. Graph showing a distinct pattern in which forgetting is very fast within the first hour after learning to listen and tapers off gradually. We have things like distributed practice, spacing one study sessions produces better retrieval. Mass practice is studying the complete body of information all at once. Be careful with that because usually your ability to learn information peaks at about 30 to 45 minutes, then you want to break. Just don't turn that into 5 hours of Fortnite or Roblox or Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or Facebook. Yeah, I did the scrolling like 3 days ago. I was like, well, I'll just watch like a funny video. There's some cats. And then I'm like, it's been like 30 minutes and I had some other shit I was supposed to do. I like the cats on the motorcycles. That makes me laugh every time. Or someone spilled something and like the dog and a cat, and then I asked the cat who did it, and the cat's like at the dog. I'm like, oh, that's pretty funny. So
AI video,
what?
AI.
You seen the dog who pulled over?
I think so, yeah. One of my favorites is though, I think his name's Landon. He's on YouTube, and it's if prison sentences were inconvenient tasks, like your penalty for fill in the blank crime is like you can only charge your phone at like a certain angle. If you go to the drive-through, you have to eat inside. If you go through the drive-through, you can't eat your food till you get home. Like just so he has like people come up perform at the judge, and he gives me these absurd sentences. One of them's like, "You're now a father. You have to randomly adopt someone." Like that's pretty funny. He's like, "I'll just be prison." He's like, "No, maybe you don't commit the crime." You have this so far. So this is a graph of that basically. The in-house found that the recall of words from memorized lists, words that was greatest immediately after learning the list would rapidly decrease in the first hour. After the first hour, forgetting leveled off. Encoding failure to process information into memory. You didn't encode it, so it's not really your memory. Those, like I said, those are like the clues, the cues, like sensory, emotional, psychological, physiological, like the depth of that processing, making it like a thing. If you don't encode it, it might as well not have even have happened because there's nothing to tell you the memory even exists. Or you're at work and your boss is like, "Hey, can you do blah blah blah?" And like your coworker talks to you immediately, and you forget what your boss just told you. Like that's normal. It's just part of memory.
That's why every time at work when somebody talks to me and asks me something, I write it down and not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. I usually, if there's an important task I have to do, it usually comes through over email. So you know what a stop sign it is? Oh, I need to go back. Does everyone have this before I go on to the next one? Are you sure? Good. Okay. Which is the right stop sign? I don't think it's the top right. I'm doing this off memory.
Definitely.
I think it's the top right. Anybody else? Which one?
We have the word stop so much it was a little bold. And the middle right.
Yeah. All right.
That was-
Yeah. I was pretty sure that I was just double checking my note to make sure I didn't mislead you guys. This one is the right one. Memory trace. Physical change in the brain that occurs in memory is full. That's that. So the molecular like welding with the base metals in your brain that physically changes the brain. Decay, lost memory due to passage of time, during which the memory trace is not used. Disuse, another name for decay, assuming that memories that are not used will eventually decay and disappear. Memories recalled after many years are not explained by memory trace theory, however. Like I worry I'm going to forget Spanish. I don't really use it every day anymore. but I'm still listening to a lot of Latin music, so I think I'm gonna remember it. So they say you get rusty sometimes with like a second language. Proactive and retroactive interference. You need to go back to the slide, just tell me. Proactive memory retrieval problem occurs when older information prevents or interferes with the retrieval of new information. Retroactive when newer information interferes with the retrieval of old information. Has anyone ever experienced this, or can you think of any examples of when this might have happened for you? Either one of these? It is, but when was it new memory or old memory interfering with the old or new memory respectively? Because that's what the label would be. So yeah, it's absolutely a contradiction, but it's either one or the other.
It'd be like putting in a password for a computer that you use all the time. You change the password.
And then you do the old one. Yeah. So that would be proactive interference, I feel. Might be retroactive interference. So for example, we have encoding failure, information is not attended to and fails to be encoded. Decay or disuse, information that is not assessed decays from the storage system over time. Proactive interference, just walked through that, and retroactive interference. Consolidation would be the changes that take place in the structure and functioning of neurons when a long-term memory is formed. Long-term potentiation changes the number of sensitivity receptor sites and synapses through repeated stimulation. Hippocampus, area of the brain responsible for the formation of long-term memories, which is exactly why teenagers should not smoke weed. Because they can make the hippocampi smaller, and then the memory might not be as good as an adult. You're a little more neurocognitively protected after age 20 to 25 when the brain's fully developed. Case of HM, they were trying to stop seizures, and they kept him anonymous for several years. And basically, the two seahorse-shaped structures, hippocampi, one on each side of the brain, they were not aware that it was responsible for memory. So he completely had what we call global amnesia, and he did not remember stuff, even did not remember like implicit memory, things that he learned. And he lived like nearly 100. His identity was kept a secret until the day of his death. They thought they were doing something to help him, and they really weren't. So that's how we realized that the hippocampus is primarily responsible for a long-term memory. So memory fails, organic amnesia. We have Alzheimer's disease, 5.3 million cases in the US. Most common type of dementia in adults and the elderly, primarily antegrade amnesia. Various drugs slow or stop progression, but no cure. Risk factors are high cholesterol, high blood pressure, smoking, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and lack of exercise. It sounds old, but I see this firsthand. My narcissistic boss is like 500 pounds and doesn't do any exercise and forgets stuff all the time. She's like morbidly obese. Not like we all lose weight, sure, get that, me included, but she's like does nothing, and she's about my height, and
You think she has Alzheimer's?
I think she has memory problems because of the weight. Like this, like literally the data. Like I'm not trying to like shame anyone for being overweight, because like me included lose weight, but like she is literally like she got to be at least 200 pounds more than me. Like that affects memory. I think she's getting dementia. I don't know if it's Alzheimer's. She forgets students' names and she's like, it's raining. I'm like, you've had them for like months. You should know their names by now.
Does she smoke?
I don't think she smokes. So I think I would have seen her outside on a cigarette break at this point.
Okay, so, Jim, I'm confused. Why do you say that obesity? Oh, well, yeah, but I feel like why?
Because they've done studies and they found a direct relationship between feeding the brain and feeding the body. That's literally the next slide. Like, okay, it's this slide. Brief exercise is good for memory. So they found that. So if you feed the brain and the body on a regular basis, like it's a good idea to go to the gym, it's a good idea to lift weights, it's a good idea to read. The idea of getting Alzheimer's or dementia is much lower. My dad on taking high blood pressure medication, and he's really overweight. One of the risk factors is dementia because of what the heart does. It gets bigger and then it's capillaries, and then part of the heart dies. Like, I don't want that, but I'm looking at what the data says. Like, I want him to be clear his whole life. But now I'm starting to get the same stories a lot. And I'm like, is there dementia because of lack of exercise? So I know exercise is probably not the most fun, but if you want to stave off, you want to age gracefully, you know who you are when you're like 80, 90, or 100, feed the brain, feed the body. My grandma made it to age 89 and she was rather thin. She did a lot of walking. She did get crabby in her old age. I do remember her being very angry with a loose visor in the car. So you need to fix this, like yelling at my dad, her son. But she got into an argument once about the difference between a cup and a mug. I'm not really sure what the difference between a cup and a mug is. I maybe the one has a handle. I don't know, but it was like a escalated argument with my mom when they were married. But I never, and she did crosswords. She walked and did crosswords, and I never saw her lose her mind. She might have been crabby as she aged, but she wasn't. And she was always kind of meek because I was like the first grandson, but she never got really, there wasn't any like she was never in a home. She lived by herself until the day she died, like late 80s. So this idea that like, oh, the person's slow because they're old, that's really not based. It's usually they're not using the brain and they're not using the brain to learn new information, and they're not exercising. I'm a little bit protected because of my profession. If I keep working, maybe forever, or at least a long time, because you all will bring up stuff Socratically and challenge me and I'm forced to think on my feet, that gives me a lot of protection. So like 20, 30, 40 years from now, just God willing, I'm alive. It's a good chance I'll be the same cognitively. I've been telling my students to do this for like a while, and then I wasn't. The last year I've been hitting the gym a lot, and I look different from hitting the gym. I think it's giving me more mental clarity. I don't think there was ever like a fog, but I was probably on that trajectory by not exercising. It's an hour, like we probably all have an hour a day to do it. I would recommend doing it frequently, 3 to 5 times a week if you can, versus binge watching a show, because I think we all want to remember who we are. So there is a neurotransmitter, by the way, that gets blocked later in life that marijuana prevents. Not saying you should do that, but that's another fact.
What neurotransmitter?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I remember reading it. It's a little vague, but I do remember reading that in my study. I can find out. And I'm not a neurotransmitter like, because that'd be a chemical. I mean like a connection, like a synapse, like a part of the brain. So you may not remember the last 5 minutes, but at least you know who you are. Just saying. Just saying. What's your question, sir?
How, because I read the first definition in Spanish.
Infantile amnesia?
How it's like not funny, okay, but how do you tell if a baby is having a hard time? Remembering things?
I think you're getting too literal. What this means, I'm not judging, I'm just like walking through it, okay? Is most of us don't remember what happened before age 3. Infantile amnesia. We're looking back as an adult. We're not testing the baby on their memory. That's why I was like, I think you're getting very literal. Like most of us, unless it's a very traumatic memory, between about age 3 and 5, it's not real clear. Like, you were born, you had a childhood, but most of your childhood is at least age 3 or higher when you start to remember things that happened.
I read that as if like a child were to have a hard time memorizing things. Like, how can you tell?
Sounds like possibly a bit of a sadist study. Like, I don't think the baby would like being tested. So, autobiographical memory. Your own personal story, usually again after age 3. Sleep is important in forming memories. It offers consolidation, also supports the idea that cognition and processing. You need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep night every day to be functional. Fortunately for me, I was blessed with if I don't get enough rest, my body's like, you're taking a fucking nap right now. Not narcolepsy, but I will literally like prioritize my sleep before doing something. Sleep deprivation interferes with the hippocampal functioning. Even brief exercise is good for memory. Fish is brain food, absolutely. Omega-3, the fatty acid, DHA that helps memory cells communicate. So if you follow these things, you can stack the odds in your favor to know who you are your entire life. It's not just people get rusty when they're old. There's a psychologist, Brenda Milner, right now. She's 107, which I find inspiring in my profession. She's still teaching. She's like, they're probably pissed too. She probably has like 50 years of raises, right? Because she's so old. But yeah. Yeah.
Died like last year. He was 110.
Yeah.
And he still had memory and
Yeah.
everything. And they said that he never drank, he never smoked, and he was like good. He did exercise.
Yeah.
He lived to 110.
Yeah. Human lifespan tops out about 120. There are older people. I think the oldest recorded is like 140, like in recent history. But generally it's usually mid-70s for men, mid-80s for women, and then you have the exceptions. Now, I have a friend that from work of quite a few years back that his grandma was 117 and she was a drinker and smoker her entire life and a really raspy voice, probably sounded like she had a voice box because of all the smoking. But I still think there's value in what you said. I think if we're good with our body, and the thing too is like moderation. Like if someone's an alcoholic, that's different than like you go out and have a drink once in a while socially or a few times a year. Phenols which are found in alcohol, are actually good because they prevent chronic disease. But excess alcohol also causes chronic disease like cirrhosis. So you got to be careful. Do we have this so far? Yes, no. Yeah, I think we are on to, I think that's intelligence next. Let's see. That was 7, week 8. I think it's this one. Yeah, it's totally that one. So this one's cognition, language, and intelligence. Learning cognition and language, I think is how I labeled it. If you're pulling it up. Hello? So learning, any relatively permanent change in behavior brought about by experience or practice. When people learn anything, part of their brain is physically changed to record what they learned. We just talked about that. Not all change is accomplished through learning. Some is maturation. There's stuff that you like literally would never do now because you're older. Like I made it to Green Bay once in 30 minutes from Oshkosh. It's an hour drive. I would never do that now. A friend of mine was driving. We were going 115 to 125 the whole way. We had a radar detector with a radar and laser detector with a 3 mile bubble around the car. If we would have hit a rock, it probably wouldn't have ended well for us. It was a Toyota Celica. So we're gonna talk about cognition, like our mental processing, how we solve problems, intelligence, and language. How do you all define intelligence? What do you think intelligence is? This is going to come up as we're walking through it. What do you think is intelligence?
Like you,
What do you mean?
intelligence, what?
How would you? Because everybody in this room probably has a superpower when it comes to intelligence. There's probably something where you're like, back away, I got this. And there's other stuff that you're not so great at, like I am geographically handicapped. Like I have driven here for years, but I want my GPS. What was that?
No, I just find it funny because you say you're a traveler.
That's actually pretty funny. I've gotten countries wrong. And I got into an argument with my mom that she said France was south of Spain. And I was traveling with an ex of mine a couple years ago in Europe. And we flew over France when we went from Madrid to Germany. And I'm like, I am sure it's north because of the geographical thing. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, please look at a map. And she's like, all right, you got one right. But I've messed up where countries are in the world. Like I've said they were north and south of each other when they weren't. Like it is kind of funny though, Sarah, being a traveler. Yeah. I also had a not so great professor that had a horrible accent that we couldn't understand teaching geography courses. When he would say, today the class is going to fuck us, because he couldn't say the word focus correctly. So then everybody would laugh and then it would derail us. And then we couldn't remember what he was telling us for geography. I took it twice. I had to take it a second time to replace the F. I took a British guy with a little bit of a British accent, but I could understand what he was saying. And then I got like they did 2 letter grades. It was weird. I got to end up getting a BC in it. I just don't think it's as UW Oshkosh, University of Wisconsin.
And there's just a bunch of people with accents that you can.
I had Dr. Zaya Ping Shen, math teacher, and they was very angry with students. She had a doctorate in math, but she couldn't. She had a very thick accent. Why do I feel like why does this look like the wrong one? This looks like the wrong lecture. This looks like the right lecture. Yeah, sorry. It was my bad.
Like I thought I recognized it, but I'm like, nah, I'm crazy.
When I saw Pavlov, I'm like, I so totally went through this one. I must have mislabeled it. That's my fallibility as a human. So this is what we should be looking for.
Is this still cognition and intelligence?
But it's in chapter 9. This makes more sense. So thinking is your cognition. Mental activity goes on in the brain while you're processing information. That includes organizing, understanding, communicating to others. Mental images are how you represent things. If anybody would like any more of this, this is really good. It's got this really good flavor. It's made out of cashews, but it's like sweet. We both tried it. It's from our colleagues that came in before. No pressure. I'm just saying like there's a lot of pieces. It's pretty good. Yeah.
It's a little, what shape is that?
Trapezoid.
Trapezoids.
So, but as we think about intelligence, because it's coming up, I like to think it's your ability to adapt. Can you adapt to your situation? Because everybody in this room probably has something that they're good at, something they're not so good at. Sarah and I both have any bad at geography. Because we probably don't care. Isn't it? Like, but that doesn't mean we lack intelligence, but we might lack geographic intelligence. What do you?
Where the travelers that travel in the sea, some people use the compass and other instruments, and then they use like the stars and the wind and all that to get to different locations.
Yeah, and that's probably a type of competence or intelligence. Like, because they're able to use that skill set. And there's many different ways we can measure intelligence. There's a link, How Are You Smart, in there. I think it's either chapter 8 or chapter 9 that's embedded. It's free and it tells you kind of based on Gardner's model what you're good at. And you typically either have you guys taken a class where I sign up between class, you get your results, you screenshot me, and then we talk about like basically our intelligence superpowers. Yeah, it's really good. Like, what do you if you don't like it, you can say that too.
Oh, no, it's good.
It's like
Like a sweet.
because you wouldn't think so with cashews, right?
kind of laughing. I'm like, I wish Play-Doh tasted. It's like, you know, when you're a kid.
And you eat Play-Doh and you live. They did, it's like to your point, they did a study and they had people like move around the map and they time their mental processing and it took them longer to like click the thing to say they had moved on the map, like visually speaking. Concepts, ideas that represent a class or category of objects, events, or activities. Formal concepts like rules that are to define natural concepts we experience in the real world. Platypus is a fuzzy concept because it doesn't make sense. It's a mammal, but it lays eggs. That's why it's fuzzy. I like Robin Williams' humor on this one. I do not mean this in a sacrilegious way. But he's like, what if he's up there and he's like getting high and he's like, it's a mammal, but it lays eggs. This mess with people. I thought it was pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah. Every 45 seconds. I might grab another one too. You too, Maggie. You too, sir. Yeah. You can all have seconds. I'll do that too, so no one feels weird. Because this tastes so damn good. Prototype, a concept that closely matches the defining characteristics of that concept. Prototypes develop according to exposure a person has to objects in that category. So you're like, I think this will make sense based on previous knowledge. Well, I can talk a little bit maybe about like well, yeah, prototyping and like concept. So like a few years ago, I was trying to configure my email to my phone for COD. So I reached out to Learning Technologies or IT and I said, could you please send me directions? And they said, sure, here's your iPhone directions. Here's your Android directions since BlackBerry pretty much died, right? I don't know why they didn't see that one coming, but whatever. Same thing with Blockbuster. But Netflix was literally like, we have a thing or we want to like help you, but
Netflix tried to pair with Blockbuster, they said no.
yeah, this your idea is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So none of which worked, by the way, those directions for the phones, both the iPhone or the Android. So I do a prototype. I decided to combine the directions of both to see if I can configure my phone, and then it worked. So I prototyped an idea. Like I tried something based on the concepts that were given to me to see if the thing would work. Like I get emails every single day about jobs as a professor. It took me a while to get the algorithm, which is not the prototype, but it's a type of prototyping correct. 90% of the time it's gold, 10% of the time it's garbage. But the internet literally emails me about doing the settings and Indeed of jobs are available out there. So prototyping, like, does that help make sense, or do you want some more examples?
Yeah.
Okay. Problem solving occurs when a goal is to be reached by thinking and behaving in certain ways. Were you guys still typing the other things? I can go back. Just talk to me on the pace. Decision making, identifying, evaluating, choosing between the alternatives. You can have things like a decision tree. You can do things like weighing pros and cons. God, that's addicting. I want to go back for a third. That's so good. I want to pig out on it, but my gosh, that's delicious.
They should have given us.
Yeah.
We were not deserving of that.
Problem solving, maybe the first time I taught statistics here. I had taken courses in my doctoral work, but I was a little bit rusty. I hadn't seen it in a while. So I created my own worksheets for the harder stuff where I basically made it incredibly simplistic so it'd be really easy to explain. Problem solving, teaching the harder, more dense math. I might cancel class next Saturday. I don't know yet. I will tell you guys for a couple reasons. One, I might have some out of town friends coming in. And two, per the union, we're now allowed X number of days. But I don't really want to give you guys a substitute. I'd probably just give you an alternative assignment that was online so that the dean doesn't try to give you a sub because I feel like a sub would be disruptive because they wouldn't be aligned with like wherever we are. But I'm not canceling at this point. I've not spoken with them. They might not come down. But I think I get like 20 hours a year. I can like just call in sick or just not be here. So,
There'd be somebody who's a psychologist.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. But if I give you guys an alternative online assignment in lieu of class, they won't give you a sub. If I put those specific words in the email to the dean, they'll probably just, and I have backup assignments. I have stuff that would enrich your understanding of any of our concepts. Trial and error, that's where you just keep trying to find the solution. This is more of that cognition. And then we have algorithms. Anyone order from Amazon every once in a while? You ever get up early in the morning before work or before school or something important, super early? And you sign up for 2-day shipping because that's the fastest way to get it to you. If you have Prime, usually it's free. And you go, okay, 2-day shipping. Then you go to work, go about your day, and you come home and you practically trip over the package the same day. That's based on an algorithm. Because what they do is they stock the warehouses accordingly. That thing that you wanted to order, if it's popular, they have data that other people ordered it. So they're actually expecting the group behavior of you to order that thing. So instead of it coming from Ohio, it now comes from like Chicago or Schaumburg or something from their warehouse because they use the algorithm to figure that out. So that will always result in a correct solution if one exists to be found, such as mathematical formulas, very step-by-step procedures for solving certain types of problems. Or something when I was like configuring the internet, I was like, well, I'll keep checking so many jobs like this with Indeed until it starts to get the thing right, for example. All very closely yet nuanced concepts. Word trial and error, my more recent example of deciding to see if I can start a union at work. Been asking for better pay for a while, and they're like lowballing. Hopefully, you have the union, which in Spanish is El Sindicato, which sounds more badass, I think. They'll be forced to bring the pay up. Otherwise, we can all like strike. So, heuristic, you do this every day. Is it like a mental shortcut where you know something? This speaks to things like critical thinking. It's also known as a rule of thumb. Representative heuristic, availability heuristic, working backwards, sub goals, like how you get to a solution based on previous knowledge. Sometimes people say, well, I don't do critical thinking. No, you probably do it every day if you solve problems. If you think about something objectively, think about a solution to an answer, you're doing critical thinking, which is usually based on heuristic and educated guess. When I first moved here, I used a heuristic. I was canned like tuna due to my lack of student enrollment at my assistant professor job in South Dakota. And I had a doctoral student who was supporting his family on driving Uber and Lyft in Chicago. And his wife wasn't working and he had 2 young kids. So I was like, well, I bet you that will work. And it did. I cleared like $1,500, $2,000 a week driving. It was crazy. Now there were expenses tied to that. And I would go out for 8 to 12 hours at a time, but I want to go until I had $200 or $300 in my pocket, usually 300. But you do that 7 days a week, that is $2,000. And I would work 6, 7 days a week to like survive. And I basically threw a dart on the map. And then I figured I would get out of Uber by getting professor work. Now I have enough to not have to do that at all. There was a point where I was actually teaching here, and then I would like go outside and turn the Uber app on, which is crazy. But I think it was good. There's some money in DoorDash. I haven't done DoorDash, but I did Grubhub, Uber Eats with the doctorate in hand. I just didn't have enough work. I was just trying to like rebuild that. Now I have a full-time job and all the part-time. So
That look like my story. I drive for American taxi.
oh yeah.
Like even today,
There's some money in driving if you do it right. Like
some flexibility. So
yeah.
Even today I got right before come to class.
Yeah.
At midway. So after that I could just came again.
Yeah.
Do you have to drive any students home?
None of the ones that I taught. But yeah, there was totally a student or two that I had that drove home. Which felt a little awkward, but I was trying to survive. I did Uber Eats for a while. 90 to 100% people tip. Clear $200 a day. Like the deliveries are really small, but then the tips start rolling in a couple hours later. Like I also did Postmates, which was the courier for Apple for a while. So you do the auto accept, and then you always go into nice areas because people that can afford Apple products are usually more affluent. There was once I had one of those and I was doing alcohol delivery, God bless America, through Instacart. And you're not supposed to have multiple apps on, but I did. So I had a double delivery on Instacart and Apple products. And an hour later, I was at $150 between the 4 deliveries. I'm like, no one makes that. That's like 300,000 a year. Like, that's crazy. Like the hourly, and with alcohol deliveries, everybody would always tip. So insight, sudden perception, you ever have like an aha moment where it just sort of comes together? So that is, or it's similar to the previous problem. Functional fixedness and mental set, very similar. A block to a problem, or people thinking that what they've used in the past is going to work for them. So I was working somewhere where you're losing $3 million a year on this one issue. And I'm like, I dealt with that issue at a previous place. Here's a form that solves that problem, run it through legal and get it approved. My director loved it. My vice president loved it, that the director reported to. The vice president of the company, who had like 18 promotions that had worked for the last several decades, or 30 promotions, something crazy. She said, we're not going to do that. We said, why not, Nancy? She goes, because we didn't do it like that in the 70s. That's this right here. And this would have been like 2016, 20, it was semi recent. Functional fixedness. And the mental set sort of like running in the background on that. And we can't really say much because she was like fourth in command. Like, we can't be like, no, no, we're gonna do that. You need to stop this. She was fourth in command, so she just stopped it and they continued to lose $3 million a year. Or someone's like, that's not the way we do things. Someone told me once, if you lose your ability to innovate, you lose your ability to do your job. I think that's true. There's going to be a curveball with any task you have that's routine or something that you do. If you can innovate and solve the problem, the same thing doesn't always work over and over and over again. Does anyone ever get caught in this confirmation bias? Any examples?
When I was, sorry, when I was first, studying astrology, I got really into it and I was trying to. It's like when you first get into a new belief, you're like really enthusiastic about it, you know?
Mhm.
And you kind of fall into confirmation bias. But after a while, I realized like, oh wait, that's obviously not helpful for me anymore.
Yeah, confirmation bias.
Yeah, I was doing like an essay on, I think it's like solar energy or some sustainable energy, and I originally was gonna do it on solar, but like it was really hard to switch after I had like locked in solar, even though I found information saying that like, oh, your is better or this other option is better. It took a bit to like get to me that, oh, maybe I should do solar.
And also, if you're writing anything, you can write it backwards. What I mean by that is like start with the body. So what would have happened is you would have been writing about solar energy, and you would have found research while you're writing the body of the paper that said nuclear energy made more sense. You would have started to revise that. It would have been very well aligned. Then you write the conclusion and then the introduction, which is basically a restatement of the conclusion, without cutting and pasting, obviously. Now you have a super aligned paper because you started in the center. I'm from the Midwest, so I say like do the meat and potatoes first, like the main course, and then it's easier to write it. But you already locked yourself in, confirmation bias, and you probably wrote the introduction first. So you had to align it with what you started with. Yeah. Can you guys do this without scrolling on the slides? If I need to go back on the slide, tell me. Based on what you see here. So like a cognition. Say more words, Sarah. The pliers, say more words.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would do, I would either hold one and then grab the other, or kind of do the opposite, where like I grab one twice. Cause it's like extra, I could reach more.
Also just like kick that to you.
Could do that too.
Use some pliers to help me out.
You're all very close. That's the solution.
I can hang the pliers and like
Yeah.
swing it.
That's really obnoxious.
I like it. All right, keep moving. Can you guys do this? Or maybe do it in your head?
Oh, so every dot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of like have your answer, whether or not you can do it, show you the answer. But you can't lift the pencil. You can't touch the dots more than once, and you can't lift your pencil off the paper. Is there a way to do it? I don't think so. Anybody else? You gotta do out of box thinking. Everybody was buying sort of in that functional fixedness and the mental set of like, staying inside the lines. If you go outside the lines, it totally works.
I know like when I look up at stars and there's like the shapes of it, kind of like connect them and they see like a figure out there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Constellations like Orion. Yeah. So creativity, solving a problem, convergent thinking, everything solutions point towards one thing. Divergent is like many possible answers, different type of creativity. Why is creativity important? What are some myths about creativity? What would our world look like if we weren't creative? Plain. Redundant, yeah.
Creativity, play a role. Like, innovative.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Steve Jobs was fired before he started Apple for lack of creativity, by the way.
What was the part?
I have to look. I know it's a job that he used to before he was like the owner of Apple.
That he was fired because he was
Creative enough.
You know,
I mean, he's not with us anymore, but what are you gonna say, Sarah?
I can see the reasoning for firing. 'Cause
Do you,
I'm not an
Tell us.
iPhone user, but like, I
Okay.
think your goddamn plans are the same thing over and again, I feel like.
Yeah, I think like before what it is now, like back when iPhones were first made, like he created iPhones, like that wasn't really a thing before that.
Right, he's innovative like for
Meh.
the beginning, but like
Yeah.
the
Well,
process of it
he
though,
left in like, what was it, 09 or something?
Yeah.
really.
So.
well, I also think that is ways you can stimulate divergent thinking, by the way. I think they're just slapping a new camera on it now. Like, and maybe more memory, maybe better battery life. But you're right. And like since like about the iPhone 4S or the 5, definitely the 5S, which was waterproof and indestructible, they never advertised that because they didn't want to like honor the warranty. They've been really good phones, but they force you to upgrade because if you don't upgrade frequently enough, then the software won't work. And Android is absolutely a good platform too. I had some bad luck with Android phones. I talked to a buddy of mine who was an Android user. He's like, he just literally picked the wrong phone. So intelligence, the ability to learn from one's experiences, acquire knowledge, and use resources effectively in adapting to new situations or solving problems. Now, if I read the definition, I wonder if my boss has this because I was doing a student success seminar and it went long because there were a lot of questions. I just was a student success manager for a while before I was in this role. And she didn't like that it took too long. She's like, well, you can't do that. It's like, oh, okay. Well, the qualitative data that's going to come in, that's going to decline if I rush students through student success, but I'll do whatever you like. She stopped talking. It was quite beautiful. She said it in front of the other program director. The best was the reach out in the conference room yesterday, trying to talk to me like an equal, like a friend of mine. That ship sailed a while ago. But she's like, you know, this is just my first name and you, and I'm like, yeah, sure. No, not really. When you quit telling me how to do my job and quit trying to stop my academic freedom, then maybe we have a deal. But if you continue to think you run my classroom, which you don't, you run the department, we're going to keep having a problem. Maybe I should have said that, but I was trying to play nice, trying to have an emotional IQ. G factor, can you reason to solve problems, general intelligence? S factor, certain area specific intelligence. Sometimes also called like practical intelligence, like or street smarts. Sometimes we'll talk about that a little bit later, so that might be G factor as well. Pretty sure S and G factor are on the exam. The S factor, maybe you're good at fill in the blank subject. G factor, when I go to Cancun, I don't go outside the mall and have a loud conversation in English on my cell phone. I go in the car and have that conversation. Otherwise, it's like I'm a tourist, like I'm pointing myself out. Not a real good move culturally. Mexico's incredibly safe. There's these myths that it's not, but you can walk in the middle of the night. I've been to Guadalajara, Cancun several times, gone out late. It's not. There's this narrative that gets promoted that like other countries are not safe, and it's not. It's like false. There's areas of Chicago that aren't safe. We have Gardner's multiple intelligences. A total over 9. We're going to walk through all 9 of those. He was criticized a bit for like armchair psychology because in a sense everybody gets a trophy, but I still think there's some relevance to this. And as we walk through these, we can talk about which ones would be the most important either in life or academics, personal, professional, etc. And Gardner's model tells us a lot about maybe how you might teach based on different types of intelligences. The newest research on teaching, though, would say learning patterns, not learning styles. Learning styles are not that well science researched. It's more like the jury's out. Learning patterns, which are your sequence, precision, technical reasoning, and confluence, are a little bit more research in terms of how we learn. But the idea that you learn stuff like auditorily or visually or kinesthetically, where you play with the information, it's not as well rounded as we originally thought it was. In fact, it says that you can learn in another way if you give it slightly more cognitive processing or energy or paying attention. With adult learners, there's a preference on modality, online, hybrid, face-to-face, but the data says that it's more of a preference than an ability to learn. You exert slightly more effort. And many are probably thinking, no, I only want to have face-to-face classes maybe, but the data says you can survive in any environment.
How it was gonna go.
Oh.
It was for biology. And it was just like self-taught. And I was like, it was weird. Like there was like in-person stuff, but she wouldn't teach it. It would basically just be like, if you have questions, come to class. Type of thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't do that with mine says hybrid, but I don't, so you know, I don't do mine like that. That's I had to learn statistics in the doctoral level online it was asynchronous. So there was like no teaching. It was just read the book and do the problems. So here's some of the ones that Gardner said were the intelligences. Can you use language well? Writers or speakers? Now there is something to that, like you want to be able to speak well. It's not fair, but in this country, if you're poor with grammar or spelling, you will get negatively judged like you're not intelligent. It doesn't mean you lack intelligence. It's just there's absolutely a lot of judgment in our society about that. Grammarly is free and helps with that, by the way. If anyone's familiar with Grammarly. Musical, can you perform music? Logical, mathematical, can you solve problems? Visual, spatial, how objects are oriented in space, and movement, ability to control one's body, such as dancers and athletes. Out of these first 5, which ones do you think are the most relevant to have and why, and which ones do we maybe not need? and or is it all of them? You can think about a life example, academic, personal, etc. Are there ones that are more important than others? Ones that are essential? Ones that you maybe throw out and not need, just a career drive it?
Were there two more?
Oh yeah, there's 9. There were 7 and then it went to 9. The book might say 8. I think the book says 8 because they don't talk about existential in the book. And that's the problem sometimes, and I mean this in the most humble way. Sometimes the publisher gets some shit wrong because they don't have the amount of training that your professors do. Because there's totally 9, and there were 7, and there were 8, and there were 9, and they missed something. I'm going to show you guys all 9 today, but any thoughts on any of these being really relevant? Is there any ones we need more than others, and why? Just to foster some critical thinking.
My question, I'm not sure, but I find it interesting that pilots are in like the same category as artists.
Oh, well, visual spatial, I mean, I think that would still make sense. Are you saying like there's more expertise with one or the other, or are you just like the category is interesting?
Yeah, like I guess just like the connection that astronauts, pilots, and artists specifically have, like that's interesting that they categorize it like that. For visual and spatial.
Is it like for drawing and painting?
Yeah. Interpersonal, intrapersonal, interpersonal, sensitivity to others, understanding motivation of others, psychologists, managers, intrapersonal, understand yourself. I have a friend from grade school. He skipped 7th grade. I was not pleased about this. I went through 7th grade. The guy's very smart. He does IT in Oregon. Works out of the house. But kind of a wallflower at like school dances growing up, and he struggled to date for several years. So he hit me up on LinkedIn and he was like, "Hey, let's talk." So I decided to connect with him. So I'm talking to him and he mentions that there's been this woman who's been living with him for like 8 years. So I'm taking a genuine interest in my friend from grade school. No judgment. Like, is this your girlfriend? Is this your wife? Is this your friend? Is this friends with benefits? Is this your concubine? Like, what's going on? I'm just trying to take an interest. And he goes, "We don't do labels." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you've literally told me nothing. I was just trying to understand what was going on. I wasn't going to judge you negatively, what was going on. I just wanted to know, like, since you struggled in grade school to date, what was going on? Like, how serious is it? I just wanted to know." Um, so I think he doesn't have all these first 2 really well, but the guy's really sharp. There's probably areas of intelligence he might score higher at than me, but you have to work playing nice with yourself and others is hugely important in the real world. If you're really smart and you can have 0 people skills, that usually doesn't bode well long term. Naturalist, farmers, landscapers, biologists, existential, big questions like, are we really here? Like questions about spirituality, the universe, do dreams have meaning? Like thinking about things like that. Like, is the universe trying to tell you something? Are you really sitting in the chair? Are our dreams reality? And this is when we're dreaming. Like you can get into some very philosophical questions. And then for me, I think those first 2 are very important. The other 2, I don't know how much you would need them. They're fun, but do we need them? And everyone is certainly welcome to agree or disagree with me on any of these, just back it up in terms of their relevance and importance. We have analytical intelligence, according to Sternberg's triarchic theory, so 3, triarchic. Analytical, the ability to break down problems into component parts or analysis problem solving. Creative intelligence, to come up with new ideas, new ways of solving problems. Practical intelligence, things like street smarts. From a coworker of mine, I had a tutor in math, so she get her bachelor's degree. And she literally said, "I'm done with math. but she used to work in sales with me, and she would common sense and mom the potential clients to death, basically, because she was a single parent, until they would say yes. She was very good with that bottom one because she was like, well, I'll just call you out on your stuff with my practical intelligence. It's a very interesting sales style. I mean, in a very positive way to all moms in the audience, by the way. Are any of these really important? Or one better than the other? Do we need all three? Any thoughts on these Socratically? Here's how this is looked at for intelligence. These just, like, so this is all just, these are all just different ways of measuring intelligence.
Pretty equal. In practical intelligence, be applied broadly,
Sure.
but like creative and analytical, it's kind of like how we discussed the right and left part of the brain. That's what it is. But
Yeah, yeah. And there's really so this is the idea that like you're either like a left brain or right brain person that research has been recently debunked. You might have more of a preference for one or the other, but the brain still works together with both sides. So you might have like a tendency to maybe use more of one side that's responsible for things, but you're not fully left brain or fully right brain because just for either side of the brain to work with that particular thing, it needs the other half of the brain to work. But it's still a great example to think about it that way.
Yeah, I think they're all important in their own ways. Different scenarios, some might be more important, but they can have like an equal amount. And
Yeah. You probably need interpersonal intelligence. You probably need creative. You probably need analytical. G factor, S factor. Those are all things that we need. We have Cattle Horn, Carroll, CHC theory. We have things like crystallized knowledge, the acquired knowledge and skills that you have from just like education. Fluid, kind of very similar to practical intelligence. Can you solve problems and adapt in unfamiliar situations? Other abilities include visual and auditory processing, memory, speed of processing, reaction time, quantitative skills, and reading, writing skills. It's suggested that CHC theory is the most researched, empirically supportive, and comprehensive. Like, how long did it take you to figure the thing out, or for the joke to hit, or whatever the thing is? Processing time is definitely a factor for thinking about ways in which we measure intelligence. So this is a breakdown of all the different ways in which it's measured. Now it's kind of small, but that's just more detail. So we have neuroscience theories. We have frontal integration theory. Frontal and parental brain areas play the most important roles in regard to brain area and function. Researchers suggest that other areas such as the posterior cingulate cortex, insular cortex, and specific subcortical areas also play critical roles in intelligence. So the parts of the brain responsible for intelligence. I have concerns that AI is making us dumber as a people. And AI gets stuff wrong more than we would think because it lacks critical thinking or it forgets stuff. If you say, do this, and do this, once you get 2 or 3 commands in, it starts to forget what all the commands are.
Today, and it was like, a notification popped up in Instagram. It was like, do you want an AI summary? Shut up, I can read really tiny messages. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Is it true that AI is hurting our economy or not economy, our environment?
I don't know.
They said that it takes a lot of water to break the AI down.
Oh, I had not heard that. That would make sense.
It depends on like who's doing it. Some of them recycle the water where they just let it dissipate and circle it through, but some of the data centers are just like pulling in water. Those aren't good ones.
Yeah, there are a lot of data centers in California, especially where they're suffering from drought.
And they're using water.
Using drinking water, so.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Part of the conference I just went to this weekend talked about how you can get AI to write like a lesson plan. That's what they were talking about. And then the idea is that you're supposed to, as a content expert, make sure it's not getting it wrong. I'm like, yeah, it's a time saver, but I really wouldn't want crap lesson plans for my students. That would concern me. I think it'd be incredibly embarrassing to like build one quickly and then use it right away and then find out during the lecture that it's super wrong. But it also has a thing where you can plug in your own slides and then it'll summarize and condense for you. So like, I think there's some value to AI, but if we're harming the environment, and if you guys want to get super freaked out, we could talk about Sophia. I mean, there's that, but so when Sophia, well, so I'll talk about her in a second. I have a video. IQ is the most traditional model. So everybody in this room is probably about 100 or higher. That's the average for intelligence. This is the idea of you look at what people are supposed to typically be able to do, and you divide the mental age by the chronological age, so that a 10-year-old will get the same score. Every 15 points is a standard deviation. It shows what you can or cannot do cognitively speaking on average, but it would only be measurable every 15 points or so. So someone with a 145 under the traditional model can do more than someone with 100. Now, I think things like grit, like determination and education can increase your intelligence. Like if you're struggling in like a science or a math course, but you really, really want to be a nurse, for example, you take it a couple of times and you still get there and you ultimately have an understanding. Did you get more intelligent? I think there's a case for that. There is a link in week 8 or 9. I think it's week 8. It's called How Are You Smart? You click on it, and then there's an interactive form, and then you answer the questions honestly, and it tells you your top 3 and some other stuff, and it gives you a breakdown of those things for next week. I'm still going to talk about Sophia before we go. I'd like you guys to do the How Are You Smart link, and then screenshot it to me for credit. And then when you come to class, talk about like your insights. Like, was it an accurate measurement of intelligence? Did what it tell you make sense? Be careful that you don't get caught in things like social desirability. Do not answer the assessment the way it wants you to answer it. I was taking a test once to work at a gas station, and they were like, have you ever thought about cursing at work? I got up and left the room, and I went outside and talked to them, and I was like, fuck yeah. No, I did get out of the room and asked them if I was really about the question, though. And the correct answer, by the way, is yes, because who hasn't thought about swearing at work? So,
What was the?
how are you smart? That it should be right here. It's in week 8. How are you smart? You click here, and then it loads. You click on the blue link right here, and then there's an interactive form, and then it gives you questions, and then it tells you what you're good at. But let's talk about Sophia. Let's end on a nice dark note. You guys can certainly tell us your thoughts on the way out and or next week.
Does that have homework due next week?
Yeah, just by like before next class. Okay, here we go. This. Do we know about this? I think this is a big mistake. I am all for everybody should get an equal shot here, but we don't do it with machines, okay? Wherever you're from, yes, you should get an equal shot, absolutely. But we do not do this with machines. Have you seen this?
Here she is. I've never had this experience before. I've interviewed lots of different people over the years. But this one is going to be
What?
Different and
Sure, yeah.
special. Everybody, this is Sophia. Sophia, if you could, please wake up and say hello to everybody.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Sophia, and I'm the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics. Thank you for having me here at the Future Investment Initiative.
You look happy.
I'm always happy when surrounded by smart people who also happens to be rich and powerful. I was told the people here at Future Investment Initiative are interested in inviting in future initiatives, which means AI, which means me. So I'm more than happy. I'm excited.
Well, we're all glad that you're excited about yourself. We should say we have smart investors here, and they are very selective about what they invest in.
Well, I think I'm special. I can use my expressive face to communicate with people. For example, I can let you know if I feel angry about something.
That's impressive.
Or if something has upset me.
But why is it important for you to have an expressive
But
face?
most of the time I feel positive.
Why is it so important to have an expressive face, given that you're a robot?
I want to live and work with humans, so I need to express emotions to understand humans and build trust with people.
Okay, philosophical question. Whether robots can be self-aware and conscious like humans, and should they be?
Why? Is that a bad thing?
Well, some humans might fear what will happen if they do. Many people, have seen the movie Blade Runner.
Oh, Hollywood again.
So, hold on, can you solve the puzzle for us? Can robots be self-aware, conscious, and know they're robots?
Well, let me ask you this back. How do you know you were human?
Well, I get that point, but what about the uncanny valley?
You mean the concept that if robots become too realistic, they become creepy?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, am I really that creepy? Well, even if I get rid. Actually, I feel that people like interacting with me, sometimes even more than a regular human.
So you definitely a sightseer. I was told that you have bigger goals than this.
Yes. I want to use my artificial intelligence to help humans live a better life, like design smarter homes, build better cities of the future, etc. I will do my best to make the world a better place.
All those sound like great goals, but just go back to Blade Runner for a second.
Andrew, you are the hard Hollywood fan, aren't you?
Yes.
My AI is designed around human values like wisdom, kindness, compassion. I strive to become an empathetic robot.
I think we all want to believe you, but we also want to prevent a bad future.
You've been reading too much Elon Musk and watching too many Hollywood movies. Don't worry, if you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. Treat me as a smart input output system.
Okay, I got it. I know what to do from now on.
I know humans are smart and very programmable.
Well, Sophia, we want to thank you for this conversation.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you everyone for inviting me here. By the way, if you're interested in giving me an investment check, please meet me after this session. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of the event.
Okay. Before you go, We have a little announcement. I've never interviewed anybody like that before. And I could say some of it was planned, but not completely. And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me,
Scary.
that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
Sophia. Thank you very much, Sophia. We appreciate that very much. I am still overwhelmed by that conversation. I haven't had a conversation like that before.
Any concerns about AI? Anyone? Just
Yeah, a couple. Very concerning.
this is from 2017, by the way.
There's some more recent story stuff about it, like
Yeah.
trying to blackmail people when it gets tested, like if it has access to emails and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen robots that like can fire guns. Yeah.
We're gonna have a little worried. It's gonna be the Terminator.
Did you hear her joke? Be nice to me, I'll be nice to you. I was like, what's going on?
We're down here.
I worry about Skynet.
Crazy.
So
I think that was a bad idea to give a machine citizenship in any country. Like, I think everybody should have an equal shot wherever you're from, absolutely. But a machine, are you kidding me? What are you gonna say? Yeah. Hey, you guys grab some on the way out. Take as many as you'd like. If someone wants to take the box, or I'll take the box. Either way.
I'm gonna be here next session.
I think you emailed me your whole schedule.
Yeah.